Big tonight. Suriname's Court of Justice has imposed a 20-year jail term on former Suriname's President Desi Bouterse, who has been implicated in the murder of 15 men on December 8, 1982. Bouterse, who was not present when the court issued the ruling, had appealed against his conviction that had been handed down in August 2021. The court-martial of Suriname at that time upheld the 2019 military court ruling of a 20-year jail term following a trial that had been going on for several years. The prosecution had alleged that the men, including journalists, military officers, union leaders, lawyers, businessmen, and university lecturers, were arrested on December 7 and 8 and transferred to Fort Zeelandia, the then headquarters of the Suriname's National Army. They said the men were tortured and summarily executed. Bouterse, 78, who dominated Suriname's politics for decades and left office in 2020, has denied the charges. Bouterse had said in the past that the murdered men were connected to an invasion plot involving the Netherlands and the United States. His defense had argued their deaths were not premeditated, but the court said it concluded that Bouterse had sufficient time to consider the decision to eliminate the victims.
The verdict today, just like the judges of the military court who issued the original conviction when Bouterse was still president, deserve applause for their courage, their fortitude, and their independence. This is a huge victory for Bouterse's victims who never gave up fighting. It's also a huge victory for all those around the world who are fighting to hold powerful abusers to account. Today's decision is another reminder that that accountability for the worst human rights crimes has no expiration date. This is a proud day for Suriname. It's a proud day for the judiciary. It's a proud day for the rule of law. Thank you.
With bringing dictators to justice, as it says, but this was quite long. Is this common?
Well, we've seen around the world. The Khmer Rouge were prosecuted decades after their crimes in country after country. Unfortunately, we find that political interference, political attacks on justice, the same kinds of things that the court spoke about here, delay, insufficient independence often makes it the struggle for justice very long. What is amazing in this case and in so many other cases around the world is that family members, surviving victims, don't give up. And that has been a powerful motor around the world for justice. And I think that other victims of abuse around the world are going to look at this case and they say, you see, just like they did for Pinochet 25 years later, just like they did for the Khmer Rouge 30 years later, Bouterse's victims fought for 41 years. They never gave up. And maybe we can do that too.
So patience does pay.
Patience, but active patience. Let's remember that in this case, the statute of limitations was about to expire in 2000, and it was only because the victims' families filed a case that the statute of limitations was stopped and that this case could move forward. And really, my admiration, my congratulations to the family members who never gave up and who fought to see this day and are now rewarded by seeing justice done.
What does this case say about the democracy of Suriname?
I think it speaks wonders about this. I mean, the fact that I'm in such admiration of the fact that in the first instance, when the Krijgsraad convicted Bouterse, he was actually the president. That doesn't happen in almost any other country. In the United States, the president has immunity when he's in office. In most countries, a sitting president has immunity. Here, the judges, throughout this process, throughout all the delays, throughout all of the interference, showed that they wear the mantle of judicial independence very proudly. And I think it says a lot about Surinamese democracy, a lot about the rule of law. It says that nobody is above the law, no matter how powerful you are. It's a powerful, it puts Suriname really on the map of judicial integrity and of the rule of law.
The fact that Bottas said during his meeting Saturday, 16th of December, that it was a political process, so that does not withstand them.
Yeah, I listened to the judges today. I've read the judgments in the courts below. It seems that the evidence was very, very strong. It would have been political not to prosecute someone who is alleged to have committed these kinds of crimes. Obviously, it took, what was political is how long it took. But the fact is that the judges deliberated and as far as I can tell, rendered a judgment based on the facts and based on the law.
The former president remains chair of the National Democratic Party, and some fear unrest in parts of Suriname. Die-hard supporters call him boss and have maintained they will not accept a conviction. Balthazar has urged calm several times. Tight security measures were in place in part of the capital of Paramaribo. Balthazar could ask current President Chan Santoki for a pardon. Defendants who immediately ask for pardons typically have their arrest paused for 8 days. Santoki investigated the so-called December murders as a police commissioner and later as justice minister pushed for the case to move ahead. For more on the developing story, we go over to Paramaribo where we have journalist Ivan Cairo.
And so far we haven't seen any eruptions or whatever calamities you might say.
Okay, and there were some concerns about violence from his supporters. Does that look like a possibility, and what does the police have in place to deal with that?
At this moment, we don't see any indication that there will be possible violence, because just at the start of this morning, police have cordoned off several blocks around the courthouse, so that people who didn't have any business in that area couldn't get through. So also his supporters that possibly would have gone there to give him moral support were not allowed. And also on social media, his party NDP called on its followers to stay away from the courthouse today, as not to give the authorities any motive to act. So it was calm today, and for the moment we think it will remain calm.
Okay, and where is Balthazar now? What happens next? Has a warrant been issued for his arrest?
No, there's no warrant issued for his arrest, because when the court read the verdict today, they also argued that although the prosecution had asked for his arrest, they won't give a verdict on that, because the court said that the prosecution didn't argue enough why he should be arrested. And the judge who was presiding over the hearing said that there are legal procedures that have to be followed. The Suriname has the laws that oversee how a person that has been convicted should be arrested, and how the sentence should be carried out. So now it's in the court of the prosecution to execute their duties as the law stipulates. That was the court order today.
Okay, and is there a possibility of a presidential pardon? Can Balthazar seek presidential pardon?
Well, he can seek that, and he has 8 days to do that. At the moment of the verdict today, he has 8 days to file an appeal by the president to get a pardon. But the thing is, before the president could issue a pardon, he should ask the court that has handed down the verdict for advice. And as the way I saw the court read the verdict today, because I was in court today, I don't believe that this court would advise for a pardon. I don't think so.
Okay, after this verdict, what does this mean? What does this verdict mean for politics in Suriname?
Well, the landscape will change drastically. That is, if Wouters is incarcerated, because then his party will have to choose a new leader, and many people see it as that Wouters was the glue that kept his party together. So many persons, people speculate that if Wouters is out of the picture, that his party will break up in several factions and maybe cease to exist and what have you. But we haven't reached that bridge yet, so we have to see what happens.
All right then. Thank you very much. Do have a good evening. This is Primetime Caribbean.